Hey, Bessie, if you were online, could you give me a little help with
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. This is Jason Flores. I am on board here at the ODivaZ Ladies Race. I want to welcome everybody on board. If you're just tuning in, this is an exciting installment of our Ladies Race here by Team ODivaZ, and I'm on board with Taya Friedstedt, and we've got a great group. I missed the number coming out, but if I could just back off here just a little bit, let's see what we've got going on from the helicopter view. We are just headed up the first climb in neutral up the first hill. So the course today that we'll be riding is actually going to be the classic hilly course. It will include the first hill KOM, and it will include 3 laps of this. We are in the first lap, and I'm on board with our ride leader, Taya, and looks like I'm looking at just over 25 riders, just a handful off the back. The leader is reaching out to everyone, letting them know, hey, stay with me today and it is going to be okay. We're headed over the first hill. Everyone needs to keep close to this beacon, keep it nice and relaxed. Remember, there's lots of differences in weights and in powers, so you need to make sure that you stay on board. Let's do this. Let's jump in straight on board with the bike here. Let's see. All right. All right, so we are headed up here. So let's take a look at some of the names that we've got. Taking a look at the roster here, we've got C. Scott, M. Hertog, Ali Sutcliffe, Connie from Team Moose. We've got, of course, Taya Friedstedt with the beacon today. Helen Salt, definitely a B rider to watch out for. Jansen, a top performer in the past races. Miss Holmichael. Oh, amazing, amazing time. Let's see you going down. Let's see if we can get a couple mine. Tina von Frankheim. Oh man, this is going to be a great race. We've got teams represented from across the virtual world. We've got PTZ, ODivaZ, I've got KRT there, SZR. This is going to be a great race. I guess the question will be, will this give us some team tactics today, or if it's just going to be an all-out kind of slugfest for lap to lap. So let's back it up just a bit, and we'll see if we can see kind of how the rest of the pack is kind of shaping up here. But it looks like everybody's coming back. I've got all zeros on my riders nearby, and what that tells us, everybody, is that all the riders are very, very close to each other in the final bits here to get to the neutral. See if we can get our yeah, it looks like everybody's grouping up. We're getting to the front. Oh, we cannot forget our rider from China here, Zi Kala. Miss Kala has definitely shown some great legs, some great energy. Definitely someone to watch out for. She's got a great sprint and a great 1K to go, let out, and we've seen that one time and time again. So something to really watch out for today. Something going to be that the ladies need to watch out just as soon as the lights go green today. All right, we are headed right here near the crest. You'll be able to see the KOM batter just as we go around, and Ali Sutcliffe is just backing off just at the end of this, and so we will be in race mode here in just a moment. All right. Back up on the full helicopter view. It's looking really good out there. Everyone looks like they're behind the beacon. I think we're going to get a pretty clean start here. I'm going to take a couple images as we go. The downhill is kind of tricky, so if everyone could just pay a little close attention, make sure that you stay behind the leader here, behind the leader. See if we can get a couple jams, get something to feel the air just a tad bit here. All right, so we're headed just across the top here. All the ladies look like they are respecting the beacon here. Everyone is behind at this time. There is no one in front. We've got all our riders looking to make sure that they stay behind because we don't want anyone disqualified today, and that is the goal. And so far, so good.
Here a little bit.
All right, so we're headed here, headed on the downhill. You can see all the ladies on the front view looking really good here. See if we could jump on board. We've got the onboard camera view looking backwards at the whole group, but it is looking like a solid group here. We'll start to turn this up just a little bit to kind of get some of the excitement going here. Looking great, looking great. So one thing we're going to watch out for is what card will riders be playing today? Are they going to jump and try to get on the groups ahead of them? Are they going to kind of play their card right and look for those category riders, let's say the B and the C riders, to see? We actually have a lot of just A and B riders today, so we're going to see if kind of how this pans out. This ends up being a pretty elite race with the A and B riders, a lot of them kind of jumping on together and staying together a lot of the time, as we've seen historically on this ride. So we'll have to take a look and see kind of how this pans out. A lot of times what we'll find is a big, large group will kind of jump off the front and kind of really put the pace down. So we're going to see if that happens today, and we are just about there. We're rolling down the backside here, and we should see Hanks. It's a little building on the left-hand side. For those that aren't familiar, the riders have given some really fun names to a lot of the bridges, a lot of the overpasses, the mountains, and the little tiny segments, the little Strava segments that have been put together. So really, really interesting here. And if you notice, there's something interesting as well. On the course, you see very, very few riders, and that's actually a fun addition that we've actually just had in the last month or so. And what we've been able to do is actually cull or kind of strip down each of the races to only be able to see the riders that are in the race. So what we'll do is we're getting really close to the bottom of this hill. I'm going to back out to make sure we have no riders ahead of our ride leader here. And we look pretty good from the... We've got some of the ladies going straight super tuck here, and we are getting really close. Everyone's tucked in, looking right in the draft, and we should be very, very close to Hanks. I should see it come by here. And I will make sure I get a shot. That is Hanks, everybody. And we are go, go, go. Green light, green light, green light. Zeros all across the board. We've got a clean start, everybody. Clean start. We'll get a couple images of that. And let's get back into the action. So, here we are. We've got Jansen here on the front. C. Scott pushing 6.0. These ladies are not going to let it go. They are going to really put it down straight from the front. We've got Patricia Koch here. Taya Fried said chasing her with 1 second just behind. Really putting the pedal down. We've got Sarah Holmichael there with a 5.8. They are wanting to make this break happen early in this break. Let's see. She is a strong, strong B rider. We've got this group forming fairly quickly here with about a 2 second gap. Remember, in Zwift, you know, anything around 5 seconds or less is pretty normal, but in fact, we do need to make sure that when you are that chasing group, you need to keep them within your sights. We've got a group of about 3 seconds apart here now within the A riders and the B riders, but again, what you'll see is that B riders that jump onto this train it will work in their favor, because in fact it is almost a free ride in order to get to the top or into the front of their category, because of the fact that it is such a clean ride with such high pace. So if you're able to keep that pace up, if you're able to kind of make sure that you're on the bridge or on that break, you definitely will work in your favor. The gap has become 3 seconds. We've got this nice group. Let me get a quick count. We're looking at 11 riders here on the front. We've got Kay Green on the front, a B rider, definitely showing some strength here. Really strong legs, from what I understand. You know, I know there's a lot of training going on from the Team ODivaZ camp and the Zwift Fitness camp with the FTP Challenge. So you're going to see legs pretty strong here as they are completing their cycle and their period here. But this group's definitely forming up really nicely here. We've got Helen Salt, Kristen Green, Sarah Holmichael, Z. Kala, Michelle Herzog, Patricia Koch, Inga Jansen, if I remember, in this group together, really putting down the pace. We've got a 10-second gap, with the group behind being K-Fly, Sutcliffe, Ali Sutcliffe, Enigmo, Tina von Frankenheim, with the B and the C riders, and just behind us. That's about 5 or 10 riders behind us. So they're going to try to group up and see if they can put some numbers or put some edges into this chase group. There's 3 riders in that group, a combination of B and C riders. So what they're going to look for is any of those B riders that fall off of this group. A name that I didn't see earlier is actually C. Scott, a B rider. Again, really being able to hold on to this pace at an early time for these B riders, but they need to really make sure that they play it smart. They need to make sure that they play those wheels, and if you're in fact racing for your category, you need to keep your eyes on your riders, so in fact that you know kind of who you're racing against as you go along. But so far so good. We're going to hit up the S's. This is a really popular part of the course where you can really put some time in. And the part that's interesting about this course, or this part of the course, is that it's undulating. So it actually is kind of up and down. And what it does is allow riders to get some pace on the downhills. And it kind of plays tricks for those riders who are maybe a little bit lower or higher on watts per kilogram. Because what that does is allow them to go up the hills just a little bit quicker, a little bit easier than some of those other riders that may need to kind of push higher watts to get to the top. So that's going to be something to watch out for here too. Let me see if I could jump back on board with Sarah Harmichael here. You'll see the little gaps here as I jump on one more time with Helen Salt, just 2 seconds back. This isn't really a huge gap for us at this distance, but it is something that we'll watch out for. You'll see this all come together as we get back on the flats. But so far so good. Everyone's got some really strong legs, it looks like. This gap is keeping its eye and keeping those riders up front close to each other. You see Zikala come up through the group, letting everyone else know that she's here to race and that she is a force to be reckoned with. And we've got, of course, Taya with the chevron, the yellow beacon above her, right there with that front group. So really, as far as tactics are concerned, you've got two riders. You got Patricia Koch and Helen Salt, just two riders back. They need to work together to make sure that they stay on this as they come down. The last bit is a downhill, so they have a little bit of time, but you don't want to get too much further than about 3 or 4 seconds behind this, because that could definitely put you behind the ball here. You got Patricia Koch and Helen Salt, just two riders back. They need to All right. So just on board with Sarah Harmichael, see what's kind of forming up here. Helen Salt and Patricia Koch just falling just off the back with 8 seconds to go. If they can just put their heads together, I think they can bring that back here just at the end. The downhill starts, and this is about 1,000 meters to go, as I'm always reminded on our Team ODivaZ rides, because it's a very favorite of all of ours to do that 1,000 meters to the finish line. So we'll call that at the very end. They're just under the caves. They're about 750 from the line. We're going to be starting our second lap here, Let's see. So as the other group comes down the other side, what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to jump back and kind of watch on that end as well. So let's see what we've got. In the background, you can see the smoke from the volcano that we've done many a laps on. And as we take the helicopter view, this is going down to the last 500 meters to go on this lap. That's looking good. All right, so we've kind of solidified this group here. As we enter the second lap, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 riders in this front group. Pretty steady, 3.5 plus. For those riders that are in the A's, they're going to need to be doing the work here if they want to push the pace, because they are riding for that A category top. So remember, when this is scored by category. So in fact, if you finish in the front of this group, obviously, and you're an A rider, you are your top A rider. But in fact, a B rider needs to keep their eye on the other B riders that are in this group. So in fact, we've got a couple B riders here. We've got Kristen Green, C. Scott, and I believe Sarah Harmichael. And that's your 1, 2, 3 in this group. If they can hold this together, you've got your top 3 in this break. But what that also means for the A riders is those B riders will not have as much incentive to make the pulls that are going to take to make this group to go at the pace that it needs to go. That means the other 4 riders, the other 4 A riders, are going to need to kind of make this, or kind of push the pace to make everybody go here, because those 3 riders know that they have those 3 spots kind of zipped up. If they can keep that gap between them, and I would say Helen Salt would be the next spot. She would be 4th in this layout right here. So this is going to be interesting. We're going to turn up here. We're going to go under the JW bridge, make a right-hand turn, and then we will be going up our second climb today, our second climb up the hills. So we will see kind of how things pan out. This is interesting because it's short. It's punchy. It's got a flat section right in the middle. You are going to see wattages and heart rates kind of go through the roof. But what would be smart is to find what we call almost the pushing point, the hardest you need to go in order to stay with the group. I think that would be the smartest move, especially very early on. It's very important. You need to look around and see who's kind of pushing. And if someone's going so hard off the front, either a solo move, you're going to want to watch out for that, because it may not be something that everyone will be able to chase down. As we go up the hill, we've got almost 5.0 by a lot of the riders. So not really holding much back here. 5.0 is very, very strong for these ladies. We make the first turn and we are headed up. We don't have much to go. You could see the volcano smoke. What you'll see is we'll make a little bit of a left turn. We're on a 7% grade. It'll go left, it'll go over, and then we'll be headed for 2 rights to the KOM banner. But so far, so strong. I'm on board with Sarah Hallmichael. She is taking the steady route of the 4.0, letting just a small group go off the front. Let me see if I could jump on board with them. I'm on board with Kristen Green here at the front. She's definitely pushing the pace, and Z Kala right behind her. So I guess what goes through the mind of somebody right off the front? Do you want to look back? Do you want to take your pace? So I think at this point you just want to be smart. You take your pace, pull your threshold. Let's say you pull your threshold at, 210, 215, even 220. You know that you could probably sustain that threshold power kind of coming up this hill being this short. So at this point, does she want to kind of blow it out and, give her the 300, the 350, or not go like a nice steady 200, 220 right at her threshold? So at this point, she's got 1 rider just behind her. She's going to want to stay pretty steady and just above or up and around threshold to see what she can do. But right now, she's established a 3-second gap. So in that little bit of mist of people looking around and trying to figure out, are we going to chase? She's kind of mixed things up here. She's got Z Kala right in front of her, but they are very close to the KOM, and they'll get a little bit of a breather here. So the draft will come in effect just as they come up and over. They're about 30 seconds to the top here. They're going to need that breather. So definitely making that last turn. There you go. We'll be able to back up now. All right, we can see a couple riders. The next rider is 8 seconds back, 8 seconds back. So really they are 200 from the top. So they have established this gap. And so at this point, they're going to get a chance or an option to be able to kind of let off the gas, to be able to recover and keep this gap. So they're going to need to keep their eye on that 10 to 14 second gaps. And boom, the confetti flies. 2 riders, Z Kala and Kristen Green, come through the banner there, and definitely very, very strong. All right, let me jump back to the climbing group just behind us here. We've got Inga Jansen just coming through the line. She's right, followed by C. Scott and Sarah Hallmichael. The gap has now become 25 seconds, which can be a little bit difficult to follow just because of the fact that it's an up and a downhill, and some of the downhills show a little bit more of a gap than usual. So let me see. I've got 4 riders. These are the 4 riders that were previously between with Kristen Green and Z Kala. But looking really, really strong. They're working together here. Thea Freidstedt is just there sending out messages to those riders that have had technicals as she passes by. Always very, very, very nice. Even at 180 BPM. So here we go. So we've got 4 riders here. Taya's probably going to chase on here in just a moment as we come across the top, and we will have 4 riders in the chase group. Here we go. So we've established that. Let's go back one more group. We've got Helen Salt and then Michelle Herzog behind that. Helen Salt is in the gap. She is solidly in the gap. She's 30 seconds behind this group, and then behind her about 25 seconds is Michelle Herzog, who is in the gap as well, because Patricia Koch behind there, they have separated themselves and is 1:16 back. So at this point it becomes essentially an individual time trial to catch those gaps and to close and to get yourself. But thinking of Helen Salt, she could also look back and kind of think strategy-wise. She's in 4th place right now. The next rider that's a B is 1 minute behind her. So the choice is, does she back off, ride with Michelle Herzog as an A rider, and get herself a nice solid person to work with to work with an A rider to get the 4th place and stay ahead, or does she just kind of push on as an individual time trial to just keep going? All right, we've got a little bit of a move here. Still on board with C. Scott, Sarah Hallmichael, and Taya Freidstedt. They've got all back together. They're headed down on the backside, and the gap between Kristen Green and Z Kala is about 28 seconds. That is pretty solid here on this course. We're on our 2nd lap. We will be 1 lap to go after we pass the banner here coming up. All right, and in the distance you see our 2 little alien riders that have definitely been iconic, has been the start of many of races. Before the module, we would use different parts of the course to identify, to be able to I guess point out or show where we would start and finish races, and that was definitely a very, very famous one back in the day when we were all doing that. All right, this 4 group is working really well. If anyone is going to catch this group, it's going to be this Riders of 4. I'm going to see if I can jump all the way forward to Christine Green and Z Kala here, which are working really strong. They're coming across the bridge here. And I believe, yep, we've just got one little hill until we get to the sprint bridge, but we are on the bridge right before that. So they are pushing very strong. The heart rates and wattages are strong as well, and very, very up there and high. So they are down to a 30-second gap, and as they get to the bottom of the hill, this is going to be our gap to close, and this can close. As we've seen before, we've got one hill, sprint hill, right after the little sprint of the bridge, and then we have the S's. That's the place. And as we look on our view 6, or off the back of motorcycle right here behind, looking back at Christine Green and Z Kala, you can see the beacon. They are not far behind. All right, so back on with Sarah Hall, Michael, and Taya Fried C. Scott. We've got these 4 riders. They need to push the pace. Every time you get on the front, these girls need to put an alliance together if they're going to put this gap. They can bring this together, but it's going to take some work. As they get onto the front of each of these pools, they need to do their effort to make sure that they can push this pace and keep that gap closed. It's down to 23 seconds now. They are putting a dent, and as Sarah Hall, Michael goes to the front and says they are not getting away. That's 1A and 1B rider. That means that the first 2 slots will be gone if they do not close this gap. But it looks like it is coming down. They are putting the efforts in. C. Scott comes off the front at 5.2. Sarah Hall, Michael back on the front with 3.5 plus 4.0, making sure that the pace stays high. They need to each get on the front, get back in the draft, get the rest that they need, and then jump back on the front and kind of rotate. Usually about a couple turns, I'm looking at 30 seconds or so, will make the difference and can get this pace high and can keep this group moving. There's only two in the break. There's 4 in this chase group, so the aerodynamic advantage is definitely higher in this group, just because they're able to get a little bit more rest as they rotate through. As they cycle through, Taya comes back to the front, and you could see each of their pulls. They do feel stronger. You could tell that they have gotten a little bit of rest, and they're able to recover as they get into the draft. And if they're getting close and essentially overlapping wheels in the views, that will be a small enough gap where you can just let off just enough to get recovery. And these ladies know that, because if you can see on the avatars, they are pretty much on top of each other. That means this group is working like a machine. They are moving one person through each time as they go. All right. Coming out right here before Sprint Hill, we're looking at 35 seconds as they come through Sprint Village. They're making this final turn. You'll see them kind of jump out, and we will get a chance to see what the time is coming through. 29's at full tilt the last time everybody came through. I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit quicker as we see this group of 4 ladies come through at 3.5 plus. Pretty solid, pushing the pace here. The gap is 34 seconds. And then moving back to Helen Salt and the rest of this race, we've got Helen Salt with 54 seconds. Tina von Frankenheim just a couple seconds ahead of her. I'm not sure kind of where that popped up. I'm not sure if she's 1 lap behind or 1 lap forward. I did see some messages. I did miss what they were. But we've got Helen Salt, Michelle Herzog there right behind. So Helen has devoted herself to kind of keeping herself in the gap for at least right now. And then we've got Ali Sutcliffe right behind her in that group. So I missed the time, 29. Let's see what happened. Pretty close to full tilt. Looks like 29 or 30 seconds coming across the sprint bridge. That's pretty much as fast as we go, as far as going as hard as we can. And they've turned up. Right here is where you can really make up some time. So if this chase group can put their feet in it, they can roll over this, which is one of the really important tactics that we kind of teach our athletes here on Team ODivaZ, and as athletes overall, you want to make sure that you roll over hills to keep that speed, because right now, for example, they're doing 22 kilometers as they go over. They need to keep their foot in it until it starts to go back downhill. So right now you'll notice that it's about 2.3 watts per kilo, 2.3% up, and then we'll kind of go on the other side, and until it gets to about 1% or more down, we want to make sure that each of us riders are in that power zone to make sure that they keep moving forward. Right now the gap is increased. You'll notice it's about 52 seconds, but again, I told you, as through the S's, it's really tough to see. We're going to see what this real gap is on our final bell lap, our 1 lap to go, as we get to the flat part right near the start finish line. So let me jump on board in front here with Z Kala and Kristen Green. All right, so Z Kala has established a little bit of a gap. She's about 3 or 4 seconds back. They've really been pushing the pace. The gap looks like 48 seconds. So there's going to be a decision that needs to be made to either let that rider go and see if she fades as the race goes on, or to kind of chase on. But she may have a little bit of a chance. There's a downhill in just a moment that Kristen Green could actually use to her benefit. And as you look over her shoulder, you could see the beacon kind of on the other side of the S's, which is definitely a great, interesting view out there. All right, she's coming into 1,000 meters to go. This is coming on the flat section. She's 4 seconds, but 49 seconds in front of the other group. So she can see her, and if she can kind of bump up, but there is still another climb here right after, so she needs to keep a little bit in the tank. So she's doing the smart thing. It looks like she's riding threshold right through here to kind of just see where the dice roll, because she knows that she's going to need to kind of do one more lap. And so for those front riders, Z Kala, Kristen Green, and the chase group, with C. Scott, Inga Jansen, Tara Friedstedt, Sarah Hallmichael, this is your bell lap, 1 lap to go, 1 lap to go, 1 lap to go. So they are coming up, 300 meters to go for Kristen Green, 6-second gap. This is kind of going away on her. Z Kala has been known to really put in huge efforts in the final lap, and just a strong astronomical numbers as far as power is concerned. Definitely a rider that has gotten some legs under her and some power, so someone we've watched many a times. So right now Kristen Green is in a little bit of a gap. She's about 7 seconds, and it's growing, so she needs to play the smart card here and kind of take it easy. I don't think that this group behind her, looking at the gap, we're about 55 seconds behind her. They are working as hard as they can, and they are picking up whomever they can here through the start line to kind of slingshot themselves. But you're looking at first and second place. They're up the road about 50 seconds in 1 lap. It's a little bit more than we've covered before, but it not to say that it cannot be done. The more these 4 riders work together, the better chance they have to making this happen. All right. So looking back, we've got a minute from the chase group. We've got Helen Salt, and as the other riders come down off the 1,000 meter mark or through the cave, I'll be able to kind of get updated. But just a minute behind this group is Helen Salt, and she is solid, steady, 3.2 to 3.6, pretty much keeping that pace, putting her head down, straight to the pain cave, just getting that work in and trying to close that gap. In the meantime, she actually also picked up the green jersey on her own, meaning that she's really putting in effort. She must have put in about a 29 or a high 28 across that at full pace, so definitely a strong effort by her. All right. Excellent. They've just got under JW Bridge. They're going to make one right-hand turn here as the helicopter makes its way around, and we'll be able to see them go up for the final climb here, the final climb. So at this point, with this gap, about 45 seconds or more, this group is going to need to kind of choose sides after this hill, and this hill may do it. We have, I think, a representative from 4 different categories, 4 different teams. It would be, I believe, Team ODivaZ, SCR, oh no, we've got 2 ODivaZ riders and then a PTZ rider, and then unaffiliated. So right off the front, looks like Inge Jansen is taking the helm. She's going to push this pace of 4.7. We're watching her kind of take that turn on her own, really forcing the girls to get up off the saddles and put some work in. So let's see. Let's jump up here. She's got the QOM for this climb. It looks like, at least on this end. So let's see. All right. So looking forward, we've got the 4 riders here. Inge Jansen, Sarah Holmichael, Thea Friedstedt, and C. Scott still pretty close together, 1 to 3 seconds. This is the time where you need to kind of put it all out. We are not coming back to this hill today. Put everything you've got into this climb to get yourself over and onto wheels. You want to keep your gap as solid as possible, or your gap as small as possible is what I mean. So if it's your first time on with us, you can definitely see the heart rates here on the screens. I'm on board with Thea Friedstedt. These are real heart rates, folks. This is real RPM. She's really climbing up this hill. And in fact, she's actually probably also feeling the resistance in her legs, because of different trainers that we all are on can give us different resistances. So as the percentages go up, for example, it flattens up, she'll get a chance to kind of spin up, we'll notice here, and get her a chance to kind of open up her legs before it ramps up again to 6.0, 7.0 as they go up. So right now we've got a gap of Inge Jansen at 8 seconds from Thea Friedstedt. We've got Sarah Holmichael close to her there, but this should come together here at the top as long as everyone's on the throttle. C. Scott 4 seconds back. A little bit of a threatening position because that puts it just over 10 seconds on this hill. So unless Inge Jansen gets off the throttle off the top of this hill, we may find a couple riders off the back of this chase group. But everyone is not giving up. You can see heart rates through the roof on all the riders as we kind of cycle through everybody here. We're 200 meters to go on with Sarah Holmichael here. And all I could see is as far as Christine Green with 40 seconds in front of this group, and then that means that Z Kala is in front of her. But one thing to lay rested is that Christine Green, as being the only B rider that's in that middle group or in that chase group chasing Z Kala, she does have that first place, that first position, coveted B position that has put her out all the way up to the front. Inge Jansen has put a 12-second gap on Sarah Holmichael here. She is up and over the KOM. She has put on her KOM jersey as she comes through the line, with only with only a couple seconds slower than our fastest rider, Z Kala, coming in at a 2:10. Kristen Green coming in at 2:24, and Inge Jansen at a 2:34. These times These times are definitely respectable times, both in the women's and the ladies field, pretty much putting time on most of the C, D, and a lot of the B riders with these times in the low 2-minute marks. Z Kala's got a 2-minute gap. That's a minute in front of Christine Green. The chase group is now 15 seconds behind. We've got Inge Jansen now in the gap. Sarah Holmichael 15 seconds behind her. That would put Inge Jansen as the second A finisher and Sarah Holmichael as the second B finisher. So right now we've got a pretty stretched out race. We'll see how this kind of pans out as we go down. But looks like we've got about 15 seconds, or anywhere from 15 seconds to 30 seconds all across the board here. So we got a couple fun messages on social media. We've got other riders riding around while they're watching, and we've got Quan and Pete, kind of Pete Donahue and Quan Nguyen kind of running around asking not to run them over as they come by at a blazing speed. So let's see if we can catch up with some gaps here. We've got Sarah Holmichael following her as she takes the turn down, going downhill, and Inge Jansen is 26 seconds. Very, very strong rider from PTZ. If you remember, her and her teammate also, Beth York, two very, very strong riders from PTZ. So PTZ has put out some really great riders from their group. We haven't seen a lot of team organization or team efforts by any of the teams, whether it be KRT, Team ODivaZ, SCR, or PTZ, but we have definitely seen some strong individual riders over time here at the ladies race. So I think it's still very early to say kind of how we can kind of follow this as far as, you know, team tactics and that sort of thing, which you see in a lot of in the men's races. We do see a lot of team tactics playing, especially over Discord audio and making sure that gaps are closing, and a lot of talking between the riders. So this essentially becomes an individual race, kind of how a criterium would be, a very kind of individualized efforts here. And so right now she's looking at a 27 gap ahead of her, and then ahead of Inga Jansen we're looking at another 49 seconds ahead of her with Christine Green. They are all in their final lap, everybody, so we will just try to follow along as much as we can. And I just lost her, there you go. We will follow as much as we can, but these riders at this point have solidified a very, very, very good position actually for all of them. We've got 44 seconds for Christine Green behind her for third place. We've got Zikala ahead of her by a minute with only half a lap to go. And then our group of four has chosen sides and pushed themselves up over the hill, but in effect have now separated themselves by at least 30 seconds each. So at this point, you need to kind of think for each of these riders, and as a coach myself, I kind of teach my riders or tell my riders kind of what to do when this happens. So we've got 1 lap to go. You're looking at anywhere between 10 to 12 minutes of efforts to kind of finish this up. You're looking to be able to at least do threshold, but I think as you get over sprint hill, at that point, a VO2 max effort could be of warrant to make sure you kind of drive the nail into the coffin per se. So making sure your effort is metered up until, I would say, sprint village, go through there, make an effort up sprint hill, up the hill right after, the power up hill right after that, and then take it home from there. So just got to be careful of making sure that you can finish strong and that the riders behind you aren't closing those gaps. So watching those gaps and making sure those gaps stay open is going to be important as we go. We've got our Zikala at 44 seconds ahead of Christine Green, our first B rider, our second A rider being Inga Jansen at 21 seconds behind her, and then our second B rider of Sarah Hallmichael at 47 seconds behind her. So the race becomes, if we are doing by categories, we've got Zikala as her A rider at about, we're looking at almost a minute in front of Inga Jansen. So Inga Jansen's just trying to close that gap, using Kristen Green as that kind of lure out there to kind of bring herself back and motivate her. And she's got some strong legs. She's going 3.5 plus. Looks like Zikala is close to the finish there. She's got a 14.4 spin up there towards the finish, and it looks like she might be making it through. I don't have our call from the finish line quite yet, but we may have it here towards the end. We've got Kristen Green 50 seconds behind there, looking really good. So they're coming through Sprint Village, and they're all needing to make efforts here, putting their heads down, looking at those gaps, looking at those wattages that those other riders are riding ahead of them, and making sure those gaps don't close. Let's make our way back behind our chase group. That would be back to Miss Helen Salt at 2 minutes, just over 2 minutes behind her, and then Michelle Herzog a minute behind her. So these gaps have opened up, and Helen Salt has done a brave effort this whole time, actually being pretty much in individual time trial mode, allowing her to kind of solidify her position, which would end up being fourth in the B group with a brave effort of 3.5. And man, she has not let off the throttle. She's got 4.2 in her still. She's going to finish this event strong. So again, essentially we've got this group divided up into individual efforts here, with 30 seconds, anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds between all these groups, but still very, very exciting racing. These efforts are not easy. If you take a look up at the top left as I go through riders, you're going to see the efforts or the heart rates and the wattages. So those wattages are the actual wattages coming out of their power meters that are connected to their bikes, and the force that they're putting down on those pedals is the force that they're putting down it's converted into wattages. So what we'll see here, you need to make sure as you come up this power hill that you get yourself up and over to keep those gaps open. We see a small gap closing between Christine Green and Inga Jansen here. It's looking about under 10 seconds. And remember when I told you earlier that under 10 seconds is closable. They are in two different categories, but definitely using each other to motivate to make sure that they get themselves up, over, and working towards the end. So there are a couple tactics that can play, and I'll kind of work through those as we kind of get a little bit closer to the 1,000-meter mark. I'll kind of work us through those as well. Looking back to Sarah Hallmichael, she's about 20 seconds back, and Taya Friedstedt just in her sights behind her. So not too far back, she has her in her sights. You could actually see her from her view here. So only about 10 seconds again, and as I reminded everyone earlier, 10 seconds or less is definitely something that's closable. So definitely something to watch. And of course, as we go up and as we go down, the gaps can kind of go up and kind of be tough to kind of watch just because of the way the algorithm works as we go up and back. So Helen Salt still solid right behind there. We got Tina von Frankenheim with all kinds of technical difficulties, but she's pressing on, which I think is a valiant thing to do. I know she's been really busy with kind of all the thing that she's doing. She's been a great team leader on the FTP challenge, inspiring and motivating, but you know, sometimes you know, life and just everything else gets in the way, and if we could just be on Zwift and be on our bikes all day, it would be a wonderful thing. But things can definitely happen, so we thank her for all her work, and she's showing some strong efforts here today. All right, so back into the race here. Let's see what happened to the gap going up over the hill after the sprint, and I can jump back on with Inga Jansen. She's got about, let's see, 15 seconds to Miss Green. It's not much there, but they've got just a little bit to go. I see the tubes, I see the volcano, and that means we're getting close to the 1,000 meter mark. So the question here is, looks like Zikala is doing her final sprint through the finish here, but so the question is here, we are 1,000 meters to go. Christine Green is about 750. She's got 15 seconds to go. There is nothing left. This is the final lap. There's nothing left. She can dump everything she's got into this final 500 meters, and it's only going to be about a minute to go before this is all over. So she's watching that gap. It's 16 seconds to go. She's got plenty to go. She's got 500 meters or less. We're going to see her put down all she's got to get to this finish line and keep that gap to Inga Jansen as open as she can. And looks like she's doing a great job. She's pushing well over threshold to keep things up. She's got her RPM high. She's got 300 meters to go. We'll see if we'll get a sprint out of her here at the finish, if we can get her to stand up and kind of give an homage to our powers that be above. So we're looking at 300 watts plus 4.6. She is going to finish this strong with 16 seconds. That 16-second gap in front of Inga Jansen, and brave effort by both of them, making that break, making that chase. Christine Green solidifies her position as the first B rider in this group. Inga Jansen, the second A rider through this group, and then backing off to Sarah Hallmichael as the B riders that are coming through. All right, Taya Free said, keep going, she says. All right, so we are on the final downhill here. Let's see where we're at with Taya Friedstedt. So Michelle Herzog hearing the screams from the peloton as we go down. I'm kind of cycling back. We got Sarah Hallmichael, which would be the second B rider to pass through. Taya Friedstedt, the third A rider to pass through, and then C. Scott of that chase group, the third B rider to pass. So really great effort. We saw a really solid effort by riders that showed a break happening of 6 or 7 riders. Actually was starting out as 12 until we came back around to the first climb, and it actually came down to 12 riders before that. And then what it kind of broke out with Zikala and Kristen Green kind of taking on the next hill, really pushing up, putting down something in the low 2 minutes, 2:09, I think, 2:05. We'll have to check back on that time, but a really amazing time as they made it up that first hill. And so huge efforts to get them into the gap. Then Zikala and Kristen Green kind of pushed on and got themselves up to about a minute gap, which was huge. And then they were able to kind of keep that position open, and then there were 4 riders behind them that of Inga. I'll get the numbers up. It was Inga Jansen, C. Scott, Taya Friedstedt, and one other rider. I should be able to have that name here in just a moment to allow us to get those numbers. But as our riders come through, we should. I'm as far as Helen Salt with the final piece there. Here we go. The data is coming through on the other side. We look at Z Kala, our first A rider to pass through, Kristen Green, our first B rider again to pass through, Inga Jansen, our A rider, Sarah Hallmichael, Taya Friedstedt, and C. Scott. It's been a very exciting race, folks. We'll do a quick recap here as I kind of back out and kind of take a look at the final passes here. I'm just on board here with Michelle Herzog. I can back up just a tad bit to get to maybe Ali Sutcliffe here. Oh, too far. Yeah, so there we go. That's what happens when you get back to the... See if I can get back to the start line here. And we can't. All right, so let's roll it back out here. So overall, we had a really great race today. Something to kind of quickly recap. We have our numbers coming in right now with our riders. So I'll do a quick rundown before we go. But thanks again for everybody joining us today. It's been an exciting race. We had a pretty big gap at the beginning. We had an initial group of 12, like I mentioned earlier, that ended up going to about 7 riders in the end. As they went up the hills, we had a two lady break that allowed 2 riders to kind of slip away from there, and it allowed them to kind of get the positioning that they needed to kind of solidify something around about a 1-minute gap from that position. And so very exciting there. And then the chase group of 4 worked very well together and got it down to about 30 seconds, but really couldn't close any smaller than that. And on the final hill climb, they kind of separated each other, and Inga Jansen put down the effort to kind of put herself in that 3rd position. So I'm going to give a final rundown here of our riders. We got Z Kala first place, Kristen Green, Inga Jansen, Sarah Hallmichael, Taya Friedstedt, and C. Scott rounding up our top 6 riders today, followed out by Helen Salt, Enigmo, K-Fly, Patricia Koch, and Ali Sutcliffe, our 12 riders. We had 25 started riders today, so a great day by everybody. I want to thank everybody on board and everybody in the background that's made this and has helped us today. And I want to thank all those commentators and everybody from Zwift Live and all the ladies here that has made this happen. I hope everyone had a great race, and we will see you on the next edition of the Ladies Race.